Hai guys, selamat pagi. Kembali lagi kita di Coffee Talk 2026, sesi 2026. Dan this is very last episode of the Coffee Talk, this session. And we have very special guests from the professional background. And this person will share the knowledge and the experience about their professional job. Back yang lepas lah. And I want to introduce to yourself Mr. Koh Moyhan.
Hi.
Hi, Mr.
Hey.
Hey.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Koh. Okay, sir. Sebelum kita bincang dengan lebih lanjut, boleh tak share sikit saya punya background in
Okay.
this experience in job.
Okay. So thank you for inviting me. Actually, this is good to be back in the faculty. Saya alumni lah. Saya grad Bachelor Science Technology Makanan 2001. So it's been 25 years since I left Wasiti. So first 5 years of my life, saya memang dalam industri F&B lah. I was in Pengilangan, FMCG, Fast Moving Consumer Group. I was the production exec and then subsequently became section head of this company called Li and Feng Distribution. So I was manufacturing things like Horlicks, Quaker Oats, Fernleaf, Anlin, anything in powder in packet form lah. So lepas tu, I thought maybe I wanted to change my career, so I went into a bit of corporate training and consulting lah. So my last job was actually with PwC Consulting, the Big Four, and then the last 12 years I started my own consulting firm lah, in that sense lah. So there's a bit of background about myself.
Oh, okay. Okay, Mr. Goh. Saya sendiri experience, Mr. Goh tadi cakap yang Mr. Goh dari food tech. Jadi saya sendiri pun daripada food tech juga. Jadi saya ada satu persoalan untuk Mr. Goh lah, which is apa yang kita belajar dekat dalam universiti, adakah ia sama dengan experience kita dekat luar?
So that's a very good question. Memang I think setiap fresh graduate yang lepas universiti, bila dia masuk dalam alam pekerjaan, I would say everybody will get a culture shock lah. Kerana memang alam pekerjaan berbeza lah dalam compared to study time, right? In that sense, pertama is I think a lot of times we underestimate bila kat universiti kita memang boleh buat kesalahan lah. I think mistakes lah. And as human being, kita learn best by from our mistakes, right? Tapi when we join the industry, mistakes seems to be very costly in that sense, or the emphasis is very high not to make mistake. And because we are young kan, we are also impacted by the prospect of whether one mistake will derail our progression or promotion when we are in a company lah. So I feel that sudah terbalik lah. So in university we try our best not to make mistake because we try to be very compliant and follow rules and things like that. And little bit things we get very scared, in that sense. Ada kalanya we become so what we call studious. Sebelum buat apa-apa kena tanya lecturer dulu, tak tahu boleh buat tak buat, So in a way they always say ini kurang kematangan, but in actual fact I feel that it is because we still behave like sekolah menengah, sekolah rendah. As a result of that, we don't learn from our mistakes in that sense, because I think even in younger days we are emphasized that kesilapan tu is a very big crime and things like that. So when we get into the working world, then we are lost lah. And every time we do something wrong, then it becomes a big problem and we don't learn from it lah. So I would think that the biggest thing is to tell everyone, especially all of you, if I were to give my advice 25 years ago, I go back and tell my younger self is, when university, you kena try everything in a way lah. Not the negative stuff, but more of experiences, taking up different roles, putting yourself into different projects or assignment, so that YouTuber, kalau you berjaya, that's very good. If you don't, you fail, that is also very good, because more failures you have in university, will help you to build your character and skill set when you go to the working world lah. So yang tu, I think, although I think I do a lot of mistake when I was in university, tapi macam tak cukup lah because bila grad that time go into the factory, had to learn the very hard way lah. So that would be my key advice to everybody.
Oh, okay, Mr. Go. Tadi Mr. Go cakap pasal activity di luar academic, which is we as a student, as a university student, we need to involve in so many activity lah. So bagi Mr. Ko lah, is it ada perbezaan di antara student yang for flat dan tak aktif and student yang biasa-biasa pointer 3.5 but it's active in any activity?
So I think yang ini penting sekali to tell, especially undergrads, mahasiswa dan mahasiswi yang masih belajar lagi ya. One of the confusion, dulu saya pun confused juga. One of the confusion we all have is to say that kita kena aktif dalam curriculum activity, and as a result kalau kita aktif dengan pelbagai persatuan dan sebagainya, definitely we are better off to get a job compared to yang tak buat lah, yang academic saja. Actually, this story is not correct lah, tak sepenuhnya betul. So yang penting actually apa pihak industri atau pihak majikan nak tengok ialah pengalaman kita dalam menguruskan orang lain. Because I think at the end of the day, even with today AI becoming more and more useful and more powerful, knowledge that we need is the hujung jari lah. You know, anything that you don't know, you can actually search the internet or ask AI and things like that. But how to manage another human being, itu memang datang daripada pengalaman. Bagaimana kita bertutur, berkomunikasi, handle like conflict and things like that. So with that in mind, because setiap tempat kerja, setiap organisasi memang ada orang lain. And when you belong to that organisation, you are part of the team, you are part of pasukan, and then you got to interact with these other people. So how well you actually manage these other people is based on your experience when you are in university. So with that in mind, the assumption or the hypothesis, as a science student, I use this word as a hypothesis, is the more curriculum activity you have done when you are in university, you have higher chances to gain experiences from managing other people. Itu hypothesisnya lah. Tapi tak semestinya betul in that sense. Because we also have people who join persatuan sebagai nama saja. So saya pasal tak ada orang nak jadi AJK, saya jadi AJK. Tapi sebagai AJK saya tak buat apa-apa pun, atau I never talk to groups of people and students organize anything. So that is the focus. So to come back to your question is, while in your university, your job is to make sure that you interact with as many people as possible. Yang berbeza punya lagi baik in that sense lah. So jangan carilah, this one I always tell, jangan carilah kawan kampung. Because I know in Malaysia, we got few states are very powerful, like people who are from Johor, people who are from Kelantan, people who are from Sabah, So when they come to UPM in Sedang, you will find that there's Kampung Johor, Kampung Kelantan, Kampung Sabah, or even Kampung Perlis dan Kedah. Perlis mungkin tak ada lah, kecil sangat. Kampung Kedah, Kampung Penang, and things like that. So my advice is to say that if you have lived or grow up in a place like Johor or Kedah or Kelantan or Sabah or Sarawak for your last 20 years, so when you come here, you meet friends from other places, other yang dari bandar, ada daripada rural areas and things like that. So your job is to make sure that saya memahami orang yang berbeza-beza. And I think today UPM, not just UPM, I think all the universities, public universities in Malaysia, we are very fortunate. We got banyak what we call pelajar daripada luar negara. We got foreign students, right? And one trend that I noticed is the foreign students only have their own group as well, So we got the Middle Eastern group, we got the African group, we got the Chinese group, we got the Indonesian group, Tapi we don't see the Malaysian actively tapping on them lah. So if you ask me, if I were a student today in UPM, My job is to make sure that I have activities with all these foreign students as much as possible so that I can learn how to manage this, what we call multinational, right? So if your dream is to work in a multinational corporation, MNC, then in university is your first exposure so that you can actually start, understanding how does the Middle Eastern people think, how do the African think, how do the Chinese from China think, and Indonesian and so forth. So that later on when you go and join a bigger company, then you'll find these nationalities and say, masa sekolah or masa kat university, memang saya ada kawan Syria, and kawan Syrians are like this, and you understand their culture. It's a very, very different ball game lah. Just like you meeting your own, dari kampung halaman, you faham orang tu kerana you membesar di tempat sana, right? So this is where I find that focus is not so much of activity. You can even not join societies and do any activity, but your focus, for instance, your group assignment, all right? So you can even do that with group assignment. So in group assignment, let's say you volunteer to become group leader, you can also tell your lecturer to say, Dr. and what, can I choose my own group mate? And when you choose your own group mate, you bukan choose member atau kawan sendiri. You choose orang yang you tak pernah kenal lah, in that sense, you never work with lah. So here is your peluang to find a foreign friend, to find somebody who is very different from you. Let's say you're from Bandar, you find somebody from Luar Bandar. If you're Luar Bandar, you find somebody from very city like KL, So then you learn from different experiences. And this will give you that pengalaman. When you give you that pengalaman, when you go for your interview, you are able to give that perspective lah, in that sense. And that will convince the majikan that, hey, you are a right fit for the organization. So yes, if you do a lot of activities, the higher chances you have greater human management experience. But again, even if you don't, because nothing of those interests you, you can do a lot of other group things like group assignment, group work, group projects and things like that, right? And this is where you need to make sure that your focus is to use all opportunity to work with other people. So even, I give last example before we move on, even final year project. A lot of times we do final year project, kita sendiri buat saja. We do it with our supervisor and that's it. But our final year project can actually be also an opportunity to work with postgrad students. So when I was doing final year project, I remember my supervisor, Prof. K, she actually assigned me to her PhD student, So I started to learn from the PhD student, and she was from Thailand, Kak Ben, I remember her name. Why Ben is because her name very long one. She's a lady, but very long. So I learned from Ben, and Ben is from Thailand. She has very different perspective, and things like that. So this is also where you can tell your supervisor to say, hey, Prof, or what can I, get to learn from your postgraduate students as part of my final year project, rather than I just do alone, and then you supervise me in that sense. So again, here you learn a skill set in corporate we call stakeholder management, pemegang taruh, so you learn to manage different people, different experiences, different background. And itu penting. That's the most important thing. So at the end of the day, you come to university is because university is a melting pot of all different cultures, all different people, all different mindset, all different thinking. And your job is to learn how to experience managing all these different people. And the more experience you have, then the more ready you are for the working world lah. That's it.
Betul Mas Eko. Saya setuju sebab actually I have read some book of this situation which is we need to work around people, and the topic of the book is called Surrounded by Idiots. I had read that book, and the book says there's 4 types of people that we can work with, which is the blue people, red people, yellow and green. And Mr. have read that book.
So I think when you use color, then there is different psychometry. They use the word psychometry to color code the behaviors lah.
Yeah.
So I think there's a very famous, my friend run this program called the color brain. Different kind of color represent different kind of people. That is just from a personality perspective. But I think more importantly, learning that is good. But at the same time, your actual experiences is even better. So learning is theoretical, but doing it. So for instance, when you come for interview today, I remember, and I tell this so that then you can understand. I remember I went for the job. The interviewer actually asked me, what is HACCP, right? And I was like, wow, ini soalan senang, because actually at that moment, I know what is HACCP from book, but I never done HACCP before in actual factory setting and thing. And then I jawab lah, HACCP is hazard analysis, critical control point, and things like that. And then the interviewer said, yeah, betul. But today, Majikan won't ask such question, won't ask what we call definition question or even technical question, because we know that as a fresh graduate, you don't have much technical understanding and knowledge unless you have done internship like 1-2 years, then it's different story, right? But without that, we understand you don't have technical knowledge. So what we have is behavioral question, and behavioral question is the same experiences I talked about earlier, how you manage other people. So I will ask you a question is, 4 years in university, when you do a group project, when you have a conflict, what do you do? So this is something that you mesti pernah mengalami. You must have experienced it before. When you work together in a group, when there's a conflict, either as a team leader or a team member, what you're going to do to manage this conflict. And I want to hear from you how you manage the conflict. You might be very successful managing the conflict, you're able to understand because you understand the different psychometry of your team members, and then you manage to get them to kata sepakat to do something. Or you try your best and it failed, everybody ada pemikiran mereka, and then the group end up fighting, and the project tak berjaya or the assignment tak berjaya, right? That is fine. This is where I come my earlier point, failure is okay while you're in university because it's a learning point. So important is when you fail, you learn from it. So as an interviewer, I want to know, because if you tell me that you have never failed before, saya pun takut juga, because then when you come to my office or you come to my environment, this is where you're going to fail and you don't know what to do. But you have failed before, you don't manage certain character very well, and but you learn something from it, then at least I know you are experienced or you have some prior experience and you know what to do next in that sense. So itu penting lah. So I cannot emphasize enough to start documenting your day-to-day interaction while 4 years or 3 years in university. So it's like those days, our olden days, we are asked to keep a diary, dear diary, ini hari ada perbalahan dengan group member. So while it sounds very funny, but it is actually important to remember these incidents, because when you go for interview, these are the stories that we want to hear from you. And when I say story, it's not Eureka the cerita, it's your actual experience, So, how do you manage a disappointment, So you got a deadline, you miss the deadline, and your lecturer, let's say, cut your marks. How do you manage a disappointment as a group? We want to know. Or you find somebody very demotivated, this is your friend, what do you do? These are all important questions of how we manage another human being, because these are the things that we need in the working environment in that sense. So it's not the logical, technical things that is easily available with the technology, but more important is people-to-people relationship management. I think that's important.
Okay, Mr. Goh. Tadi, Mr. Goh ada cakap pasal interview. So, kami as a food tech student, we usually, most of the time, we at the lab. Right? So, bagi Mr. Goh, apa selain kita buat lab report, soft skill apa lagi yang kita orang perlu?
Okay. So, I think with jujur cakap, I think with this emergence of AI, I think reporting is going to be less and less of an issue or requirement for people in the industry in that sense, because I think the AI does much better report than you and I, to be honest, right? They capture more data more accurately, and then formatting wise, they are quite what we call focused and doesn't make mistake. Compared to human being, we always make mistake, whether it's typo, whether it's alignment and things like that, right? So if you ask me, the understanding of report writing is less and less, but important to understand how the process works. So if you talk about technical skill, so I would really encourage, again, this have some soft skills needed, that students learn to ask more questions. Ini yang paling mencabar, because most students, I think even my time, in lecture kita tak pernah tanya soalan atau
Betul.
kurang tanya lah in that sense, right? And as a result of that, because we don't ask question, our pemahaman of process is not as thorough in that sense, right? So if we got AI to start writing report for us, then our job is to make sure that we get maximum information so that the report can be written properly in that sense. And to get maximum information, kita kena tanya soalan lah. Although AI can generate the soalan, but again, we need to go and ask the questions, right? In that sense. So it's important to learn how to ask good questions. That is a soft skill itself, so that we can get impact maximum information to help part of our report writing in that sense. So if you talk about other soft skill, I think I touch upon a bit of human skill like conflict management, of problem solving. I think problem solving is the most important one, because at the end of the day, any industry that you go, whether you join the factory, whether you join the corporate side, even field work, we are all paid a salary to solve problem. So dulu kat Kilang memang tiap-tiap hari ada new problem, whether it's quality issue, whether it is a process issue, whether it's machine issue. Of course, the most mencabar is a human issue lah, masalah pekerja lah in that sense. But as the exec running the show, later became a manager, my job is to solve the problem. And I realized that betapa pentingnya, and I think it's still in our BSTM module, I don't know about the other programs, we learned something called the 7QC tools. And these are modeled after a lot of Toyota quality control, problem solving methodology lah. Things like fishbone diagram, things like YY analysis, things like histogram and things like that. So these are structured problem solving methodology. Bila kat university, when I learned it, it's like, oh, macam tu saja. But when I went out to the factory, especially in the factory, this is how we start. So every time we got a customer complaint, we do root cause analysis. And root cause analysis, literally, first time I saw my colleague really draw a fishbone there. And like, oh, ini macam pernah belajar, tapi never seen how we use it. So just to assure all of you, these are not just theory, it's being applied very strongly. And there are many other problem-solving techniques out there. So I would encourage all of you to cuba use some of this framework to solve your problem. So let's say, even if you run a society, and let's say, kita ada masalah funding, fundraising, right? So rather than just call brainstorming to say that, okay, let's bincang macam mana nak selesaikan masalah kekurang kewangan untuk penggal depan, right? Which we always do, right? As student leaders, if we don't have funding, then we talk about fundraising, then we call a meeting and do brainstorming, right? So this is like general problem solving technique. But what we can do is actually put a framework into it. So if you apply a framework, any management framework, any problem solving framework, then you learn to look at things differently. So for instance, using the same example, you boleh buat, let's do a SWOT analysis of our current situation. Apa kekuatan kita, atau kelemahan kita, what is the opportunity and what is the threat.
When we talk about the company, we need the company and also the job after study. It's one word that is very important for us to use which is networking. So, apa yang Mr. Koh rasa tentang networking ni?
So I also heard about this word when I was a student, and I thought, kena buat networking for next opportunity and things like that. But after you join a few networking sessions, you also feel that, especially if you are a student, you still feel that, actually saya kekurangan pengalaman, and I still don't know much, and sometimes why would people even remember me, and things like that. And worst case, if I am a student, go for a professional networking event, I don't even have a name card and things like that, so it's awkward in that sense. But that is not the point. So this is where I found later, and these days, as I do what we call mentoring to students, professional networking is important for us to expand our mindset. I think that is the most critical thing, that we need to start doing networking during student days, not lepas kita mula kerja, right? Maksudnya apa? So if let's say you are maybe second year, first year stretching it. If you're second year and you start, every month you join a professional networking event, meaning to say you go and join a session, either a talk or a gathering with people who are already working in the industry, right? So by doing that, you are start meeting people who have different mindset, who are talking corporate language, who are talking industry language, and you can hear from their problems and their challenges and their issues and how they solve things. So with that in mind, you can actually start learning as early as possible what are some of the challenges that orang bekerja have, or industry people have, and that will shape your mindset in that sense. So networking events, if you ask me, as an undergraduate or even as a young professional, is more to go and learn from other people or to learn who is who in our industry. Because at the end of the day, our professional grouping is not that big in that sense. So going and meeting people is critical. And for students, I would say there's a lot of opportunity. A lot of government agencies are organizing talks, events, seminars, and all these are free to enter. So yeah, just need to take opportunity to actually join some of these and meet industry people as part of your networking. And then when you come out to work, you sudah ada tabiat, you have the habit, you automatically go to an event and you know what to do. But if you don't start when you are in university, then mungkin more challenging lah to do that lah.
Okay, Mr. Go. Now we gonna move on to the resume. Okay, so apa yang biasa ni tengok pada resume student yang red flag?
So important to say that resume has become more and more critical these days because there are too many applications, right? So 25 years ago, I think in terms of university, probably got less than 10 university offer what I call a food program. That means dia ada program dengan perkataan makanan lah, or food in their program. So most of these graduates will join the food industry, right? But today, on my last count, I think ada 18 university, IPTA and IPTS that offer a program in food, in makanan, whether it's science makanan, technology makanan, science and technology makanan, or makanan, prosesan makanan dan sebagainya. So there's so many graduates. So as a result of that, anytime there's a vacancy in the food industry, you'll find that there will be, I think, secara average, there will be 600 to 700 applications. So kurang-kurangnya. And that is a lot. So you're fighting against 600 to 700 people just to get a interview slot, and probably they call like 5 or 10 people for interview. So imagine 700 dia filter jadi 10, right? And that is a challenge. In fact, I can say this. I heard from the people that running the Nestle talent, the management trainee program, right? The application were berpuluh ribu, That was like, I think, 12 to 15,000 people applying. But at the end of the day, they were just looking for 30 people in that sense. So you can imagine the type of competition that is out there to get a job in a very reputable food industry company in that sense, right? So as a result of that, your resume need to be what we call good in that sense. So red flag, if you ask me, what you shouldn't be doing is to really write your resume as if you're writing it for academic purposes, all right? So a lot of times, I think we've been trained to have a certain format, all right? But that format is more for applying for academic position. So if you are trying to apply for a scholarship to do your master's or PhD, then there's one format. But if you're trying to apply job in the working industry, there's a different format, right? Okay, so I was saying that actually the resume is very different for different purposes. So for instance, if you are trying to apply for a scholarship to do your postgraduate, focus in postgraduate is actually academic qualification. So you need to highlight all your academic qualification or your publication or anything to do with academic rigor in that sense. So when we say highlight, that comes first. So you see that CV that put your academic qualification as the first thing when people look at the CV, that is really for academic institution. But when you go to corporate, the focus is therefore on working experience. That's why we say that first thing you should put in your resume is your working experience, that you need to emphasize very heavily on your working experience. So when you come to red flags and you're trying to apply for industry job in that sense, one of the red flags I see people start listing the classes they attend. So I think so you do that, right? So you, over the 4 years, you, let's say you got 28 classes, you letak lah subject mana you pernah, no? As the majikan, we don't care lah. We tak kisah apa kelas you ambil, in that sense, because that is theoretical. But we want to see your experiences, right? So this is where your internship becomes important. So thank goodness our program make industry internship mandatory. Some programs is optional, right? So for that 12 or 15 or 16 weeks that you are doing internship industry, very important you start documenting that into your resume and to build on that, because that is important. Or during the 4 years you do any part-time work, and part-time work here, sometimes people say, Muihan, I work in let's say Lotus Tesco, as a cashier. Ada kena mengena dengan food industry ke? Kalau saya letak, would that weaken my CV? No. You need to write what we call transferable skill. So if you have worked in any corporate environment or industry before, you'll find that there's some corporate rigor, we call it corporate rigor lah. Ada sedikit discipline lah. So let's use back the same example. Lotus Tesco cashier. What is the discipline? To change shift, there's actually what we call handover. There's a checklist that you need to sign off to ensure that you are counting the money correctly, you're passing over to your next colleague. These are all part of what we call SOP and processes that are very important in corporate. So the earlier exposure you have, you understand how this passover happen, changeover happen, how to even design the checklist, because as an executive, I can tell you half the time is we need to start designing checklists lah, writing SOP lah, so for our what we call our subordinates to follow. And that's what is needed. So the earlier exposure you have, even in a part-time job called Lotus Tesco cashier, help you to do that. And this is what you need to shop in your CV. And you're not a cashier. You're a person that understands processes. You're the person who understands how, changeover happens. You're a person to know how to escalate when there's issue, customer complaint, how to escalate to your supervisor, what is needed and things like that. So these are important elements of working experience that is highlighted in a resume, right? So again, if you ask me, we do not want to see so much of your academic stuff, like what subjects you go, which course you have taken and things like that. Not so important. In fact, the current argument, not all companies, but the current argument is even CGPA has become less and less important. All right. And my perspective on CGPA is this, right? If you have a very high CGPA, 3.75 and above, please tulis besar-besar, right? What is your CGPA? But if let's say you have something between second and second upper, between 3 to 3.75, as a majikan, we don't have much distinction between 3.6 dengan 3.4. To us, is serupa saja, tak ada beza, right? Ataupun 3.2. So compare a candidate with 3.2 CGPA versus 3.4 CGPA. In our perspective, there is no significant difference in that sense, right? Now, you take the exam, you will know that there is a difference when it comes to marking. But in Majikan, there's no significant difference. But if you are a student with 2.8 CGPA versus somebody with 3.4, big difference. That gives a different message, right? So if you have a decent CGPA, 3-pointer and slightly above, don't worry too much about what is the thing. Unless you are trying to go for postgraduate. That one different. So when you go for postgraduate, we are asking you to have high pointer, as high as possible. So for all those 4 flat one, you are ideal candidate to do masters or PhD, because that is what they want, and that is the key criteria. But when go to the industry, that may not be in that sense.
But Mr. Ko, what about introvert people? Because they don't actually involved in an activity
Mm.
and how mereka ni nak contribute in their resume?
So this is a very good question, and I can tell you many MD and CEO successful ones are introvert. So this is very important to learn. So when we come to university, I think the focus here is to learn different skill set, interact with different people, and also do things when we don't enjoy doing it at times, right? So I'm not asking you to choose a job that you totally hate, but I'm saying that even the job that you like, out of 10 things, maybe there are 2 things you don't enjoy doing, right? So this is where introverts need to think of this mindset of, actually, I don't like to talk to people, but I need to talk to people to gain this experience for my CV. So this is where you learn early on. And if you have the right mindset, you force yourself to do it. Just like as introvert, you don't like to do presentation. But I will tell you that if you don't do this presentation, you don't get the final 20% for your this module or this class in that sense. You will still do it right. In fact, as an introvert, you might need to work harder. You need to practice over and over again for that presentation so that you will get the marks for your class. So similarly, for curriculum activities, for networking, you don't like to do it. You are not natural because seeing too many people lemahkan you, it weaks you. But you know that I'm doing this to build my CV. I'm doing this to build my future. And then you get it done. And then after doing it, you feel very exhausted. Introverts do lah. When they talk to too many people, they feel very exhausted after that. Yeah, that is very evident. But you would not, how to say, you would not, what we say, something that you cannot do lah. So it's a choice that you need to make for introverts. And I can tell you, in a lot of organizations, introverts actually are better performers. Because why? Because they don't like to talk, they don't simply talk. Extrovert, the other extreme. Dia suka cakap tak habis-habis. And most of the time, cakap yang salah, right? In that sense, right? So at least introvert, very careful. They can talk, right? They don't like to talk, but they can talk. So when they talk, they think again. And they think whatever they say is more meaningful, tepat, and pada masa, tepat pada orang, dan sebagainya, right? So then they get noticed as well. So don't worry that you are introvert. But my point to you, even if you're introvert, talking makes you uncomfortable, you need to do it in that sense.
Okay, Mr. Go. Okay, tak boleh tanya. Okay, Mr. Go. We are moving because we are moving. Okay, Mr. Go. We all know that Mr. Go have a very huge experience in the industry. So I have one question. If Mr. Go can go back time, which is Mr. Go muda dulu, apa Mr. Go akan buat?
So I think if I were to give a chance to go back and tell myself a good advice, I would encourage my younger self to actually do more activities involving industry people. So this is what I noticed as active students in UPM or any public university for that matter. You're very active. You do a lot of programs. But these programs, a lot of times, I would say 95, 99% of times, involve students only, right? So you're doing student event or you're doing programs for other students, right? Which is relevant 30 years ago. In today's context, because of competition, you need to start doing things for the corporate, for the industry, for working adults. Because why? Again, my hypothesis is this. The more contact time you have with industry people, the better you are more prepared for employability, right? Because it changes the way you see things, it changes the way you talk, it changes the way you carry yourself, right? They say the more you mix with the 5 people, the 5 successful people, then you'll be as successful as them. So similarly, as students, we need to start having more contact time with industry people, either on an event basis or in a mentoring one-to-one basis, right? So you got access to LinkedIn. How many industry people are you connected to? How often do you have conversation with them, right? So if I were given this choice 30 years ago, I would start connecting all the managers in Nestle, in Unilever, in Mondelez, in Coca-Cola and things like that. And then after connecting with them, then I say, can I do a quick Zoom call with you, 15 minutes, just to understand challenges in Coca-Cola, challenges in Unilever, so that I can start appreciating, if I were to join this company, what are type of things that I'll be looking at. No? So I want to learn from the best, and now you got the access. So 25 years or 30 years ago, I don't have the access. So I will give myself that advice to really go and meet as many industry people as possible. And for all the students, especially FOSTEC can do this, introduce or organize activities involving industry people. The challenge is, can we bring industry speaker to the faculty once a month? Because if once a month, ada 12 bulan, that means 1 year you have met 12 professionals in that sense. And today is so easy to access, Those days, 30 years ago, so hard. If I want to write to somebody in Nestle, siapa then I have to figure. And those days, email also tak ada, kena cari and things like that. But today, besides LinkedIn, we got even adjunct, we got adjunct Professor BK, who's ex-Nestle, can ask BK, can you introduce your ex-colleague in this plant, in Jembung ke, in Shah Alam ke. So Jembung 1 bulan, Shah Alam 1 bulan. You got so many to start with just from Nestle alone. Then you move on to the next company, This is where I think will really, really help graduates today, if you ask me.
Okay, Mr. Go. Okay, that's all lah for the session. So before we end up this session, we actually have some games to play lah.
Okay.
Mr. Go. Okay, Mr. Go, now we gonna spin the wheel. What game we gonna play with? Okay. Okay. So I spin lah.
Okay.
Nampak? Okay. So we guess the food origin. Okay. Okay, Mr. Go. This game actually you need to guess the food origin where this come lah. Okay, first food.
This chicken chop, is it?
Chicken chop, is it?
Yeah. So what's the country?
Not you lah, me, it's me. Okay.
Okay, chicken chop, interesting. Maybe Europe country, German.
German.
But actually it's from Malaysia actually.
Oh!
Yeah, you guys.
Actually like, I think Hainanese punya ikan. They bring the culture.
No, but this one was, if you talk about Hainanese chicken chop, they were hired by the British to run the restaurant in that sense. So when the British left, the Hainanese, Hainanese is a dialect in Chinese. The Hainanese people very good at running coffee shop and also this lah.
So next food, Mr. Koi need to guess is tacos.
Okay, tacos should be Mexican lah.
Mexican, wah, correct. Let's go. Okay, for the next third food.
Oh, satay.
Satay.
Satay, this one I know. This one is Indonesia.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, not Malaysia.
3 correct. Two correct. Okay, Mr. Go. Okay, next one.
This is what?
What is this? Shashuka.
Oh, shashuka. Be Turkey or Mediterranean, I think.
Yeah, should be correct. Ting.
Oh, correct. Okay, correct. Okay, for the last one.
Caviar. Caviar must be Russian.
Must be Russian. Correct. So, Mr. Go, you have 4 correct.
Okay.
Except
Got the Malaysian wrong.
Okay, Mr. Go, thank you so much for your sebab hadir dekat Coffee Talk ni. Jadi we actually so this is actually the very last episode of the Coffee Talk 2026 session lah. And before that, jangan lupa untuk subscribe YouTube channel FOSTEC. Kita follow IG, follow TikTok, follow Thread kalau ada. And maybe Mr. Koi have some last advice lah for the FOSTEC.
Okay, so I'm very happy again to be invited, and I wish every one of you watching success. Just one last advice would say that it's going to be very competitive in the working world. So jangan leka lah, don't wait until last minute. A lot of times when I talk to students, dia akan only fikir apa kerja, apa industri selepas grad atau selepas final year project atau selepas final exam. So my advice is, if you're third year, if you're even start of your final year, you need to start thinking about this. What company you want to work for, and you need to start applying. Even masa kat, let's say if your final semester is your latihan industry, by the third month into the semester, you need to start applying, because you usually take 3 to 6 months to get a job in the working world today lah. So jangan tunggu semua habis baru mohon, terlalu lambat in that sense. So please be more urgent about it, because I wish all of you get the best job that you want. And even if you don't get your job that you want in your first job, tak apa, the next one will be better. Always be positive about things, and things will work out well. Right? All the best. Right?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Koh, again. And that's all from us. Bye-bye.